Hey guys, so today we're going to learn what least common multiple is, and I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. There's a few ways that you can actually find a least common multiple, but we're going to learn the way that's targeted towards elementary school. So follow along with me. Now, if we have the numbers 6 and 9, and we're trying to find the least common multiple between 6 and 9, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a number that both numbers multiply to make, but the smallest one. That's why it says least. That sounds a little confusing. But we all know that 9 times 6 is 54, so both numbers can be made into 54. But is there a smaller number that they can both be made into? So the trick to doing this is you take the larger number and you start going through your multiples. Ready? What's 9 times 1? 9. What's 9 times 2? 18. And you can keep going, but you're going to stop when you get to a number that we can make 6 times something else. So let's look. Does 6 go into 9? Not perfectly, so that doesn't work. Does 6 go into 18? Yeah, it does, because 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, and 6 times 3 is 18. So my least common multiple is 18. And we're going to box that. And we're going to write that that's the answer. Okay, so that's the first one. So we keep going until we have a number that the smaller one divides into. So now let's go to the next problem. Number 2. Problem number 2. So now let's go to the next one. Problem number 2. So this was 1, and now let's do 2. The numbers 15 and 5. Sometimes we can see it right away, especially when, 5 goes into 15. So that would be the smallest number. But in case you don't see that, start by writing out your numbers in order. Let's do 15 times 1 is 15. And remember, we check, does 5 go into 15? Well, let's write out the numbers. 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 times 3 is 15. So yes, take a look. That would be the smallest one. So my least common multiple is 15. Now, this is a really important skill. I don't want you to think it's not going to be used. We're going to actually use it a lot, especially when we later on when we work with fractions. So let's start with number 3 now. Number 3. How about between 4 and 6? So, what is the least common multiple between both of these numbers? Remember, we're going to start with the bigger one and go through our number sets. What is 6 times 1? 6. Does 4 go into 6? No. Not perfectly, at least. How about what's 6 times 2? 12. Does 4 go into 12? Yes, because 4 times 3 is 12. So we can stop there and write that my least common multiple is 12. But you're going to want to show your work for your teacher. So let's write this down. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And 4 times 3 is 12. So it's right there, both of them. And by the way, if you go a little too far and then you're going through and you're writing your answers and you see a match, then you can write the match, as long as it's before the other one, not after. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Number 4. We have 12 and we have 8. So let's go through. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 4 is 48. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 times 6 is 72. 12 times 7 is 84. And 12 times 8, which is the largest I'm ever going to go, multiplying the 2, is 96. You're never, ever, ever going to go larger than multiplying your 2 numbers. Okay? So now let's go in order with the 8s. 8 times 1 is 8. That doesn't match. 8 times 2 is 16. That doesn't match. 8 times 3 is 24. Oh, so I didn't need to go all the way to 96. I had a match, my 24s. So my least common multiple is 24. My least common multiple is 24. And for the last one, I'm going to erase. And I'm going to go and go a little over like I did last time. We have 16 and we have 12. So 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 3, that's a little tricky. So I'm just going to add the 2 before. So, because that's 2 and that's 1, so it's 48. And if I add 16 more to that, I have 64. And you know what, I'm going to stop because these are getting a little confusing. So let's go with my 12s and see if I have a match yet. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. And 12 times 4 is 48. And I notice here I have a match. So I didn't have to go any further than 64. So I kept adding 16 each time, and because I didn't know my 16 times tables in order to get to the next number. So right here I see that my least common multiple is 48. Now I want you to go and do your independent worksheets and find out what your least common multiples are for your papers.